If you don't like swearing, you definitely won't be charmed in this episode of Bewitched Banter. You have been warned, content is not suitable for all listeners.
Welcome. You're listening to Bewitched Banter.
I'm Krista, and I believe that people are just inherently shitty.
And I'm Amy, and I tend to believe that people are naturally good.
But ironically, I'm a super believer in the supernatural and all things spiritual.
And I'm a total skeptic.
So we released our Bewitched history called the 411 on Voodoo just on Tuesday.
And today, we're switching up with our format, so we're going to be calling this our Witching Tales episode, which we will be releasing on Thursday, where we tell more of our stories. So we'll have our history segment, and then we're going to have our story time.
So for those of you history buffs out there, like Amy's hubby, Corey, who we think you had a little guest host on our Vampires Be Thirsty app, we can offer you at least just the history. And for those of you who like the wacky, wild tales of crazy ass people, you can listen to those on your own time, but
ultimately listen to both.
Yeah, exactly. Just go right on ahead now, go to Apple and download that shit and leave us a review, a kind one, please.
Yeah, definitely. So how have you been?
Been really good. Went on a hike this morning with my parents and the pups, and I was telling you on the phone, and it sounded funny, but for real talk, it was like a really religious experience for me this morning.
Why? Did you see God?
I did. No, not quite, but personally, I've been going through some things, and I used to hike all the time, believe it or not. I know the me that was this rundown, like a depressed me. You've known that me for, unfortunately, you've seen the darkest parts of me, and obviously I'm working through a lot of that. And back in the day, I used to hike all the time.
Where is this hiking, Krista? Yeah, I've never met her.
You didn't, and that's why I was laughing, and I found so much spirituality in nature back in the day, and I left that part of me behind, I think, in the turmoil of my divorce and my relationship. And today I was walking out there, and I literally said to myself, and this is going to sound wild and a little religious, frankly, but spiritual to me. I was like, to nature, because nature's always been my God or my universe, whatever the hell, my higher power is nature. And I was like, God, I have forsaken thee, like talking to nature herself, Mother Nature, because I was just out there, and it was a beautiful day, and it was with my family. And I know it's just wild. I just, in my process of working through some things, it was just a really lovely morning. It's a lovely Sunday morning.
Nice.
How about you? You were up north in the likes of the rich last night.
Yes, I was. I went out it's like the Four Seasons in North Scottsdale. Absolutely breathtaking.
It is stunning.
All like this, you can see all the twinkling lights from Phoenix, and then all the mountains, and then there's like the big boulders, and the sunset was incredible, and we had amazing food. It was my mom's birthday, so we had lamb. It literally fell off the bone, and it had dates in it.
Hungry girl.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna make you really hungry. We had grilled octopus. We had 2 huge desserts, and then today I was in my parents' neighborhood up in Carefree, and they have a nature trail.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful up there.
It was a good experience. I don't know if I felt a religious experience, but I enjoyed my walk. It was a nice day.
Yeah, and so just getting back to getting outside is what I guess my little epiphany I had this morning of stopping a depressed bitch, get up, get your butt moving, get some sunshine.
Well, they've proven how just 30 minutes of walking and all the health benefits, and also just being outside, how being out and hiking and nature, how good it is for you.
Yeah. And I've always known that in my core, but I just, listen, I've been through some things, and I'm ready to come through that now. That was my lovely day. What else is going on with you?
I finished my first class for ASU for instructional design.
Yeah!
1 class down, 4 more to go until I get my certificate.
We did do our homework, you guys, on selling sunsets. Can we talk about that, please?
Yes. I felt I liked it, but I kind of did think that they made the whole season about Christine, even though she wasn't even really selling houses. Did you feel like that?
Oh, yeah. It's called production and drama.
Oh, yeah. I loved how dramatic it was. But yeah, definitely a guilty pleasure, which I totally loved watching. It was so much fun.
Yes, and if you have not watched it yet, I don't think we're going to give any spoilers, but...
I can't wait for Jason Chrishell's relationship. I'm like, the whole time I was waiting for that to happen. And then they show next season them kissing. I'm like, no! I need to see it now!
What happened? How did they get together? And why the fuck am I so invested in reality TV?
I am so invested.
You guys, listen, I've never been a reality TV girl. Like, I don't watch Housewives. I don't watch any of that drama.
You ever watch Real World growing up?
Okay, so
I loved Real World growing up.
Caveat from Real World, yes, I did watch that. And they're actually the founders, kind of reality TV.
Well, they were wasn't the first season of Real World the first reality show ever?
Mm-hmm. I think so. So they were pioneers. But so yeah, besides that, from back in the day, I never got into any of this drama until Ames put me on to Selling Sunset, and I was literally crying last week on their couch for like 5 days straight. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm Chrishell.
Like, are you Chrishell?
I fucking wish I was. Goddamn. We'd have to do an entire makeover / radical diet, God knows, but.
Well, those people don't eat. When the girl's like, oh, I'm gonna have water for lunch.
No thanks, just water for me. I don't get hungry, it's weird.
Yeah, so I don't watch much reality TV. When I do, I definitely get sucked in.
But when I do, Selling Sunset.
Yeah. It was pretty fun, though. It was just kind of fun to have, like, a mindless show to come home and watch and be excited about.
It really was. And honestly, I'm certainly not Chrishell, let me clarify, but just she was very inspiring to me, what she'd been through. I can't believe I'm talking about a reality star like this, but I'm really...
Well, she did. She, she got divorced and then she came back, even better.
Yeah.
That's, goals there.
That is my goals. Immediately when you said that, exactly my goals. We try to rise of the Krista, rise of the Phoenix, return of the Beck. All right, well, that's enough. Banta, you ready to tell us about your story?
Yes.
Which I think is quite depressing, is it not?
Yeah, it's pretty on theme for what we usually do. So buckle up.
At least we on theme.
So we went over Voodoo. Krista did a great job explaining that to us. I'm going to go over a event, which I think is going to help us have a better understanding and really give us a perspective of why Voodoo, you kind of covered it a little bit, but this is going to help us kind of learn a little bit more why Voodoo is often seen as, in a negative light, even more. I'm going to be covering the famous 1864 case, and it defined people's outlook and attitudes towards the Voodoo religion and as Haiti as a country.
Okay.
And I wanted to mention at the top, I got majority of my information from an article. It was from the Smithsonian, and it was written by Mike Dash. The case I'll be covering has been named the Affaire de Bizotone.
Okay. Good. And that's French, right? Because the French occupied Haiti, I think, right?
I believe so.
I think. Call on Corey. That's our next segment. Call on Corey, the historian.
He's not going to answer.
Call a friend.
He's not going to answer.
Call Corey.
He barely answers for me, so
yeah,
good luck. So it all begins on February 13th, 1864. So 8 Haitian people who practiced voodoo were found guilty and sentenced to death for brutal, horrific murder of a 12-year-old girl.
Okay.
So most of the information we know about this trial may not be exactly true. This case received a lot of attention at the time globally. It is believed, honestly, like today still happens all the time, that journalists who were covering this story were prejudiced and had racist roots against the voodoo religion.
I'm gonna skate right by the anger meter today, so keep going. Keep going.
And it is believed that a lot of the facts and important details were misreported. None of the trial transcripts still survive today, so we can't really fact check any of the stories that were written in 1864.
That sucks. That was my next question. It was can any of this be actually verified? But it sounds like it is not verifiable, unfortunately.
And most of the information we know about the murder is from Sir Spencer St. John. And I'm going to call him St. John for short.
Okay.
And he was a British embassy member in Haiti.
Okay.
And he is one of the main culprits behind why Haiti developed a reputation for being seen as a country where, voodoo was pretty much controlling the country. And through this man, people gained the perception that cannibalism and ritualized murder was just taking place in not in Voodoo, in Haiti with no consequences.
As a part of Voodoo, though, right? Or just in general?
But they think a lot of these things were happening because of the Voodoo religion.
Okay.
But then they were also thinking it's like this unruly country where people could go murder someone, but you're not going to end up in jail.
Right. Okay.
And he published a memoir called Haiti, the Black Republic. And this caused so many local Haitians to be like outraged, furious. And in the memoir he published like sensational tales of cannibalism in the Voodoo religion. And his memoir, along with this famous case, has so much influence even today that people believe that the country had like a pact with the devil. And it was the ultimate cause of like the earthquake that happened in 2010. Wow. So like just it's kind of interesting. Like this was in 1864. Like his actions from writing this and still impacts people's beliefs and perceptions on Haiti today.
Okay, and maybe a dumb question. I know you said he's from the British Embassy, but he's black or white?
He's white.
Okay.
We can post a picture of him.
Yeah.
It is said that St. John completed the most thorough and detailed research into this crime. So he's pretty essential to this part.
Okay.
And this next part I'm going to be going over is what he gathered from along with many other newspapers. It is believed that a man named Congo Pele sacrificed his niece to gain blessings from the Voodoo gods. The girl was killed in a small village called Bizotone, which is just outside the country's capital.
Okay.
So Congo's brother, Jean Pele, decided to help him with the sacrifice. It was more typical to sacrifice a goat or a chicken. But after
I have experience with the chicken thing and Santeria. I won't talk about it, but yes.
Yeah, but after they consulted with 2 Voodoo priests, the Voodoo priest told them they need to sacrifice a goat, quote unquote, a goat without horns, which basically means you need to sacrifice a human. Jean and Congo invited their sister's family to come visit in Port-au-Prince, where Jean, Congo, and the young girl, they were alone, is when they decided to kidnap the young girl named Colracine. The next part, I'm going to warn everyone, is very graphic.
Oh, boy.
So if you are triggered by hearing, like, just nasty, horrific things, you might want to fast forward 30 seconds or a minute.
I might be fast forwarding myself.
You can't, though. Do you want to leave the room and come back?
No, I'm good. I'm just going to, go for it. I'm just going to freak out. You know me.
It is said they bound and gagged her.
Okay.
And hid her beneath the altar of a temple.
Oh, God.
The girl, called Racine, stayed there for 4 nights. After 4 nights, on New Year's Eve, they invited 2 other Voodoo priests for a ceremony. So during the ceremony, they strangled, flayed.
Oh.
Which basically...
You had me up until... Oh, God. Okay, explain. I'm going to earmuffs. Oh, God.
Basically means they removed her skin.
Oh.
Then they decapitated her and then dismembered her.
That is...
I'm not even
fucking horrific. Excuse the French again, Robin, but that one needed an F-bomb. That's horrific.
I'm not finished yet.
Oh, my God. Are you serious?
No.
Oh, God. How could it get worse than flaying?
They then cooked her body and kept her blood in a jar.
Oh, God. And okay, sorry. Side note, none of this has been proven. This is just the story that was told, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so...
I'll get into it more later.
Okay, but either way, it's horrific and...
That is the story that what was told throughout the newspapers. And I'll get into it a little bit.
Okay.
There is contradicting information. St. John strongly believes this isn't the only human sacrifice that this family and Voodoo priests have executed. I do want to make note, at this time around 1860, most of the urban and elite people were Catholic, but the majority of the people who lived in the countryside in Haiti were practicing Voodoo. So it's kind of almost like a social class war a little bit too.
Was it a racial thing too?
Mm-hmm. Definitely a racial
black,
and social class.
Of course.
To give a little history context of why Voodoo was one of the main religions in Haiti, I mean, you covered this a little bit, but going a little bit further into it is because around 1787, it is said that 60% of the French slaves in the Americas, including Haiti, were slaves that were born in Africa.
Yep.
So during this time, they would not attempt to Christianize any of the slaves, and like they were bringing their African religions with them.
Yep.
And so they're instilling the practices and beliefs into their culture, like exactly what you covered in your history section.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery ended in Haiti with a bloody revolution in 1793. slaves during this time would use machetes to cut down sugar crops because it was their main export. The slaves outnumbered the French 3-1, and they actually rebelled and used the machetes to kill off all the French. And that's how they became an independent nation.
Okay. I mean, I obviously murdering anyone is horrific, but could you imagine being an enslaved person and not rebelling like that?
Well, it's almost like they handed them the weapon.
Right.
Well, they did. They literally handed them the weapon to rebel against them.
And after being literally reduced to 1/5 human and debased actually to not even a human, I'd kill a bitch immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just... I'm not saying that's justified, right? No murder is, but you can understand.
Yeah, I think anyone
why that would happen.
But this is really essential to the story. So they're the first independent Black country in the Western Hemisphere.
Oh wow!
And from the rebellion, and it happened in 1793. But because of this, it caused the country to receive a lot of hate from the Western world.
Well, you know that the white westernized world ran with this shit, and that's the reason, one of the many reasons aside of slavery in general, that they to keep, God forbid, Black people from having any agency, as I said in my history, because they're afraid that they'll quote unquote rebel and murder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
It's so grossly intertwined with our racial issues today.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you have more to come, but I'm just like so fascinated by how, all the things that have been happening in 20 and 21 with the racial, murders and inequity and like distress, like it's no wonder. Like 200 years ago is not that fucking long of a time ago to, and it's like no fucking wonder. There's so much trauma from these type of events and slavery in general. So
yeah, and I think these stories are good to highlight because it gives us a broader sense and understanding of where the racism and the fear, where it originated.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been ongoing for a long time. And like I said at the very beginning, the earthquake happened in 2010. Right. And their perception, like people probably don't even realize it's being shaped by something that happened like almost 200 years ago, if I'm doing my math right. But I think these stories are important to highlight because it explains the history behind it. Unfortunately, it's a terribly sad thing.
Yeah, it's horrific, but you can it's like Amy said, it's so important to understand the why and how we got here, and that this is just one very particular instance. Obviously, there's many complex layers of that, but this illustrates that point pretty well of like how that happened and who said that. Like, how, as a collective human species, we were able to let some shit like this happen.
Since the Black people of Haiti had to struggle for independence for so long, and a lot of them were born into slavery, they found Voodoo to be a religion that symbolized freedom, and it helped them, like, build communities. They could trust one another. It brought people together. But for the elite, tended to be more of a mixed race. And the French educated thought Voodoo was something that was associated with slave rebellion and like of this like alien scary thing. Like we kept saying in our other episode.
Right.
It's like this mystique. They don't understand it.
Yeah, it was painted as mysterious and don't touch it because it's bad.
And then in 1847, they elected Faustin Soulouque, who was a former slave and a huge outspoken advocate for the Voodoo religion.
Okay.
So the Western world... And we all know one of the main guilty culprits, the United States, was fearful that an independent Black country would inspire African Americans to rise up against society.
For fucking bid. Oh my God, girl. Okay, here we go.
So this is basically the tale, and one of the main reasons why they made Haiti out to be an uncivilized country full of uneducated people, because they were trying to do anything to tarnish the reputation of this country, because all the white people were like fearful that. Like I said, they're going to inspire the other people who were enslaved in America to have an uprising as well.
Yeah, it was a very disgusting, maleficent, like, PR stunt against Black people, essentially.
Then in 1960, they elected Fabre Geffrard, who wanted to distance himself from Soulouque, the one who is a huge advocate for Voodoo.
Okay.
So Geffrard wanted to build a stronger relationship with the Western world, and he came to an agreement with them in 1860 that Catholicism would be the official religion of Haiti. So kind of doing the opposite of So Luke because he wanted voodoo to be the main religion. In this agreement is written that any black magic, sorcery, or sorts would be punished. Because so Jeffrard did this, he's trying to have Catholic be their main religion. He's openly saying, hey, if you are partaking in this, you're going to be punished. That is what led to the 1864 case of these people, 8 people being executed publicly.
Okay, yeah. So it's really just making a show of these people to drive home this point. I got it.
Yeah, he's making it, he created it to be like a huge public affair. And he's like drawing in all sorts of people. He's trying to make a statement and like an example of these people. Like, hey, you do this, like you're gonna get murdered, basically. So the event did draw in large crowds of people on a busy Saturday in Port-au-Prince, the capital.
Okay.
And it said it brought all sorts of people in as spectators. It said that there were like elite members of the ruling class there, illiterate farmers who walked from like the surrounding villages to watch. Another important thing to note about this trial is that St. John did write about the fact that Jeffrard and others had beat confessions out of the 8, and they were that were executed.
What do you know? Still happens today in our prison industrial complex. Don't give me.
And he recalls one of the youngest female prisoners turning to the public prosecutor and said the following: "Yes, I did confess what you assert, but remember how cruelly I was beaten before I said a word."
Oh my God.
So that tells you everything right there.
Literally just envisioning all the stuff I watch on documentaries and true crime, and literally 200 plus years later, it still happens.
Well, yeah, and I watched something on Netflix. I can't remember what it was, but it was basically something that came out like a few years ago, and it was kind of showing how corrupt our judicial system was, and they were like tricking young people into confessing into things they've never done, like the psychological tactics they were using. I only watched a few episodes because it got so depressing.
Yeah, I'm such a glutton for that shit. It's so bad. I need to remove myself sometimes.
I personally take breaks because I think it gets depressing. Like for my own mental sake, I'm like I have to watch something a little lighthearted.
Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, I do love Schitt's Creek. So St. John still remains convinced at this point, and from after the case, that they were guilty, and stated that they found physical evidence of a freshly boiled human skull in some of the bushes outside of the temple, and 2 witnesses came forward.
You know they planted that shit. It's a little convenient, St. John.
One of the witnesses was a child who they believed was going to be a second victim because he was found tied under the same altar where Coloracine was executed.
Okay, well, that's not a good look.
That's what I'm saying. There's a little bit of... It's not so black and white as you're making it. There is a little bit of a moment to pause.
Questioning, sure.
Yeah. Did they set this up to make it look like they were guilty? Or did they pay these 2 victims? Like, that's where I kind of question all of it.
Paid them off, probably, is my assumption. But again, if they're actual victims, that's awful.
But basically, from the article I read in the research, there is a lot of conflicting evidence. Like, there is a lot of evidence to show that they may be innocent, that 8 people were executed, or there are, like I said, lots of evidence to show that they were guilty. So no one truly knows.
Okay.
And St. John truly believed that cannibalism was a normal feature of Haitian living. In his book, he claimed that at least 40 Haitians were eaten every day, and almost every citizen of the country has tasted human blood at some point.
That's a little bit of a stretch, buddy. Especially if you have no evidence to back this claim up. I don't know.
Well, that's also why I believe he thought they're like, you know how it's like you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Yeah.
Supposedly, everybody gets tried by media these days, but that's another story. Another topic.
But if he already had that perspective on the country, he probably immediately just like wrote them off. They were guilty. Historians believe that this trial helped create perceptions that Haiti was an uncivilized, unstable place. And they believe this perception justified the American military to occupy Haiti for almost 20 years, starting in 1950.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Are we still there? Do you know?
I don't believe so.
But that's still, like...
Let me get into this, though,
Okay,
because it's interesting.
Okay.
So most scholars agree that the country has many deep-rooted issues that still cause present issues today that are, like I kind of said, stemming from the 18th and 19th century. So in 1825, France made Haiti pay 150 million francs, which is like the equivalent of 3 billion today, for the country's independence and to compensate slave owners.
Wait, I'm sorry. France made Haiti pay?
Yes, it's so. Yes,
I can't follow this logic at all. This is insane.
Yeah, and this guy says it best. A popular Haitian writer named Louis Joseph Javier wrote that his country has paid for their country 3 times over in tear and sweat, in blood, during the revolution, and then in cash. And this is like
their heart and souls.
Yes.
Their reputation. There's people. It's human beings. I can't.
And this is the most mind-blowing part about it. In 1914, it said that 80% of the Haitian budget went towards paying this debt. So all their money is going to France.
So that's why they're poor as shit.
And they finally finished paying off the debt. It wasn't until 1947.
That's disgusting that they even still had to pay a goddamn cent.
Yeah, I can't imagine it even went on that long. That's the thing that kind of blows my mind, is like, first, that they had to compensate slave owners. Like, they shouldn't owe them anything.
And
then also
cent.
80%. So it kind of shows you like why a little bit like Haiti's, I'm assuming, like the economy, the situation, if they were having to pay off this debt and 80% of their money is going to France, they could not use any of that for like the infrastructure or anything else you would use to establish your country.
Jesus.
And it's just like that attack on this country because they're like the first free black country. Yeah. And that, I really wanted to...
It's an attack on black people, let's be clear. It's just, that's what the fuck it is. Mm-hmm. And again, like I said earlier, look at the results today.
I told you it was a hard story, not a happy one, but I think it's something that, like I said, we should all examine. I hope I did it justice, because I feel like this is an important story.
I think you did a wonderful job.
Especially for like Haiti, because I came across this and I was like, I don't know any of this. Did you?
Not a thing at all. And frankly, they purposely probably don't teach us American kids this because they don't want us to know that our leadership is so corrupt and problematic and racist, frankly. And I don't know. And it just gets to so many different levels of really, it's a hard topic. Don't get me wrong. And again, Amy and I are both white women who don't know anything what it's like to live in the shoes of a person of color. But regardless, all of this shit is so fucked up. It's so crucial for us to know and learn about, no matter who you are, where you're from, because it shapes literally everything we do and consume and how we interact in our molds of the world. So
yeah, and it makes me really sad that I haven't really been following it closely, so I'm not going to talk like I'm an expert on the critical race theory, but like this whole argument that we shouldn't teach children about the events that show how racist our country is. I feel like that's important to highlight. And I hate the argument. People are like, my 5-year-old doesn't need to know that. I'm like, we're not teaching your 5-year-old that. You don't have those conversations when they're in elementary school because it goes over their head.
Right.
Like any teacher, they've been through training. They know what a student can understand, their attention span. Like, these Karens need to back off. Teachers are not teaching these kids.
Preach, Miss Amy. Preach, Miss Hope. I didn't understand it at all, but when you and Corey explained it to me, it pissed me off even more that I couldn't even investigate more because I was already pissed off and angry as usual. And so, but like, yeah, I just don't understand. Like, the truth, as they say, sets you free. I'm a firm believer in that. And it's just another lie on top of lie and revisionist history. Mm-hmm. And that's not doing anyone or any of us in this world any favors by not knowing the truth and facts. And there's no such thing as like an alternative facts. Let me just say that. It's fact, it happened, it didn't. And unfortunately, this dark spot on our history is well documented, obviously, in the States, but stemmed from a lot of other European influences.
Well, I think every country has history they're not proud of. And it's like examining those. And I mean, learning from it. That's all we can do.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to hear about Marie Laveau.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Because she sounds like a badass. So I'm going to hand it off to Krista.
Yeah, this is a positive case for us feminists out there, and she's a bad biatch. So I'm super stoked to tell y'all about her today.
Sweet.
Thanks for handing it off. I think the best way for me to start this is by referencing one of pop culture TV's biggest hits by Ryan Murphy, his American Horror Story series, specifically Coven. Have you ever seen it?
Nope.
Girl, you are missing out.
I know. I think we've talked about it a few times.
Yeah.
I definitely have not watched it.
It's so good. Have you ever watched any of the American Horror Stories?
No.
Okay. Coven in particular premiered on October 9th, 2013. And
I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah. It started, God, I want to say in 2010, but perhaps even sooner.
How many seasons are there?
Oh, there's like 15 or so now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No
idea. Yeah, I didn't know. Cool. I don't know much about it at all.
It's such a... The first one is my favorite.
That's with Lady Gaga, right?
No, she's in way later.
Okay. I just know a little bit about it from other people watching it.
It's so good. It does get a little, of course, dramatic as the seasons progress. That's a total Ryan Murphy thing, but it's so good.
I don't even know who Ryan Murphy is.
Famous producer.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't
like,
know
always does, like, scary stuff?
There. Producer.
Does he usually do, like, scary stuff, I'm assuming?
Yeah, scary or, like, subculture-y, like, the dark side of human nature and subculture. Okay. So anyway, Coven, or American Horror Story, premiered October 9th, 2013, and it was set in this, like, absolutely stunning 17th century New Orleans mansion.
Okay, very cool.
And you know I love that city. So just picture the big white houses with the pillars.
I can picture
balconies. It, yeah. And in this home, this mansion, it was where young girls would learn to hone their magic by leaning into their newfound coven in this home. And one of the main plots centered around the very famous, infamous by some, Madame Marie Laveau. And she is the feared and revered voodoo queen of New Orleans. And I even have a little altar dedicated to her myself. At the end of this thing, I'm going to make you do a little prayer with me, baby. We're going to send a prayer.
Oh, I'm sending a prayer?
To Madame Laveau.
Am I going to light on fire?
Maybe. And the lightning comes down.
Yes.
Strikes me in the head. Anywho, I really hope I do Madame Laveau justice. I thought it was so funny you said that about Haiti and your story, but for me, I hope I do Madame Laveau justice because after I watched that season of American Horror Story, I became enchanted, and I'm using that word purposely, obviously. I became enchanted by her character and the real life person that was Madame Laveau. So much so that I began researching her history. I found a book that I'd bought years ago. This was before I had even watched the show, so I think she was talking to me. Like, she was like, here, you gotta, like, this is for you, girl. It's a book called Voodoo Dreams, a novel of Marie Laveau by Jewel Parker Rhodes, who, ironically, is actually a writing professor at ASU. So why all this fear? Why all this reverence? Why all this mystique? Like, what was it about Madame Laveau that made her so much of a popular icon? You may be surprised to know that she was among 15 other queens, voodoo queens, not drag queens. Hey, shout out though. Hey, queens. But she was the queen of queens, if you will. I think personally, she was the queen of queens because of the agency and power she had to heal and free so many Blacks or enslaved people. She was all about the community and really actually truly gave back to it, not only through her healing and voodoo rituals of said healing, but what I believe financially, she probably contributed quite a bit as well. Both her mother and grandmother practiced voodoo. She was also baptized in the Roman Catholic Church and attended Mass throughout her life. No surprise, as we kind of discussed that syncretization, I think it was called. I'm screwing that up, but when religions blend to become one, she was one of those folks.
I love that the fact that the voodoo religion seems to be, like, when we talked about this in our history episode, but very, like, female dominated rather than Christian religion. To me, always has like a lot of male figures in it.
Yes,
and the majority of religions are that way. Yes, so I do appreciate that part.
Yeah, and I love it's so matriarchal, and I'm gonna get into that in a little bit because that's what this book is really all about, and showcasing that part of voodoo, which I absolutely love and adore. And it's really empowering, actually. Good things came out of a lot of dark shit from the fictional Marie Laveau in this book, but also I'm willing to bet the real life one too. I don't know, obviously, but there's got to be some behind that. But to your point, I really think that she used her agency and quote unquote power of healing, and she used it in a good way instead of, how we always say like power can be dangerous if you use it for evil.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times.
Unfortunately, that happens too much, as we know, in human history. But
it's like money too. Like, you think about Elon Musk, and he's like, just needs to have all the money. And it's like...
Yeah, won't even donate to like shelters or anything, right? Like, won't even...
I'm sure he donates, but not enough to really... To him, it's probably like, if he donated $1 million, that's like $20 to him. Where like Bill Gates...
Imagine? $1 million? Here's $1 million.
No, I can't. That's a whole nother, like... But at that point, it doesn't even come about... It's not about getting money at that point. That's just being, like, power.
Right, yeah.
And then other people, like Bill Gates, like, he obviously has a lot of money, but he wants to give back. So it's just, like, depends on the person who has the power and who has the money, what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, and most of the time, they're men, rich white men. But in this case, thank God, Marie Laveau was a beautiful Black woman, and she used that power and agency to heal and free many other enslaved people and Black people in her community. And she really gave back to that community. Again, I think not only just through her quote unquote healing of voodoo charms and rituals, but I really also think that
she was a healer?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I'll get into it in just a little bit, but she kind of used she was a beauty shop owner.
Okay.
So she used also the beauty shop to mix rituals and spells and charms for her clients.
So it's like her, it's like most hairstylists are like, I'm a part-time therapist.
Oh, absolutely.
So she's kind of like that.
Isn't that what Jacob says?
Yeah, he said that before.
Yeah, I mean, and I think about all the times, like, you're just sitting in your chair and you just, like, blurt out what the hell's going on in your life,
Well, it's like you almost can tell someone who's not biased, because most of the time your hairstylist doesn't know your family and friends, so you can tell them things, and
yeah,
and they're not biased.
We need to pay y'all more, don't we, Jacob? Goddamn, the things I share. Like, wow.
Maybe you just need a tip more for yours.
Well, literally, so when some things happened over Thanksgiving with my family, my sister was getting her hair done, and we were sitting in the chairs waiting for it, and we were just shooting. I mean, we were going in on the family shit, and these poor people were listening.
Yeah, they're probably like, oh God.
Anyway, Marie also gave back to the community financially, I believe. This is just a quote and an example to showcase her giving back or philanthropy. Although her help seemed non-discriminatory, she may have favored enslaved servants. Her most influential, affluent customers were runaway slaves, and they credited their successful escapes to Laveau's powers and charms, end quote. So both her mother and grandmother practiced voodoo, and she was also baptized in the Roman Catholic Church and often attended mass throughout her life. That part has been fact-checked to answer your question.
But it perfectly aligns with your history, like the blending, how they blend the religions.
Yep, syncretization, unfortunately. I don't know if it's good or bad at this point. I couldn't assess it.
Yeah, I was going to say, why would you say unfortunately?
I think the unfortunate part is that you lose so much of the origins in something else that is of a different belief system is unfortunate to me. So, for example, when oftentimes I would speak better Spanish than a lot of my Latina friends, or it's sad to me that their parents, they had to give up the language because they had to be accepted in the 80s, or would have gotten punished or beat or made fun of for speaking Spanish in the classroom. And so, therefore, they didn't raise their children speaking the language. And so that part of syncretization, bothers me.
Okay. Because I do think the blending of cultures and religions, most of the time, when I look at it, is a good thing.
Yeah, I think...
And, if you move somewhere, for example, my parents, I mean, it's like you adopt the culture you live in.
Sure.
And you adapt to it.
Sure. And that part I totally follow and align with. I get nervous when true roots and traditions give way to basically white people shit. That shit bothers me.
I do get that, but one argument I have is I didn't like when I was a teacher and there'd be like one student in the classroom who didn't celebrate a popular holiday, right?
Okay.
I don't feel like the whole class should have not be able to participate in the holiday.
Oh, that's true.
Because you didn't celebrate it. It's kind of like if I went to another country and they were celebrating some other holiday, I would be, first of all, fascinated.
Sure.
And I'd want to learn about it.
Mm-hmm.
And like...
Yeah, that's not fair.
I think, like, even if you don't celebrate at home, can't you just celebrate and partake in someone else's traditions? I think that, I guess, and I don't totally see where you're coming from.
No, and I see your point too. Because that's bullshit that, like, you're gonna not, it's cancel culture, essentially, is what you're talking about. Right?
Yeah, so there's a little bit, I can see where you're coming from. I see a little bit of both.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So she did grow up, Marie Laveau, and again, as a voodoo queen, but also very enriched in the Catholic Church, and I'll get into it in my story and hear about this in just a minute. Another popular figure at the time that I bring up now, because it ties so well with the fictional book Voodoo Dreams that I mentioned, that his name was Jean Montanet. Again, French accent, not my jam. Or, as we'll call him from here on out, Dr. John. According to Wikipedia, Montanet was a free black man who sold cures and other material to various clients, amassing sufficient funds to purchase several of his own slaves. He alleged that he was a prince from Senegal who had been taken to Cuba and therefore freed and came up to Louisiana.
But then he would purchase his own slaves?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, great man.
But he was a slave at one point?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
that's yep. So he's a pinnacle figure in this book, and drawing upon the history of real people, because he was a real person. Parker Rhodes writes about both Johns. So there's another character named John in her story. So something that, again, the actual recording of history books says, a news coverage of the day was Madame Laveau's indoctrination ceremony into voodoo. It was held on the shore of Lake Pontchartrain, and it kind of gave me back to your case where it was like an affair. It was a big ordeal.
So, yeah, it was like a big public affair drawing people in.
Yeah, and Madame Laveau's ceremony, it drew, and this is in 1874, by the way, on the banks of this river, 12,000 people. Including,
wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, both black and white, all walks of life came to see this thing. And as I mentioned earlier, in real life, Madame Laveau was a hairdresser, but may have used, I think, again, her boutique to help others prepare herbal remedies or charms, and really used her chair as a therapist, frankly.
Yeah.
But a healer, a healing therapist in the way of voodoo charms. And while she's claimed she dies in 1881, there's so much mystery about the real woman, or whether or not she is still alive and quote-unquote living as one of her daughters or ancestors in the voodoo tradition in reincarnation.
So this big affair, kind of going back to that, so she was like welcoming new people to the voodoo religion. What was she doing?
Oh, yeah, so she was basically a PR stunt for her, frankly, to become this queen of the religion.
Oh, okay.
So people would then come to her.
Kind of like, I'm the leader.
Yes, exactly.
Almost like if she was like a priest kind of
Yep.
thing. Like someone who has power in the religion. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And people they flocked to her before, but this was like her, I'm coming out. No, she it was very theatrical, and I'll get into it in just a little bit, but there was a serpent involved. Like a big ass one, like a boa constrictor.
Ugh,
like, again, Britney Spears style. So it was a big affair. So many people think so that this is the big myth around her, that she was immortal, and that she's still living today.
Okay.
So that's part of the mystique about her as a character.
Do you believe that?
I don't know. I tried to find her, or tried to go to her tomb during my bachelorette party, but Amber and I were frankly too hungover, and secondarily, I came down with the flu, and then thereby passed all the flu to all my friends who were there. So sorry, guys. So didn't find her tomb. I don't know. I don't know about my thoughts on reincarnation, actually. Believe it or not, I don't have a strong sense of I don't have a compass on reincarnation at this point. I believe it's possible, but I don't know how. And believe it or not, my woo-woo-ness is questioning that how. Of all the things, I question that how. I don't know why, but I do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't believe in it, but I mean,
You don't?
I could imagine though, like
What?
the idea of like you leave behind your legacy and you have an impression on people, but not the reincarnation. But it's an interesting theory.
We're going to have to cover that someday, P.S.
Yeah, that'd be a cool one.
Yeah. So that's why there's so much like reverence and fear about her. And they think, this is the other piece of this, the tomb where they quote unquote think her body was buried is in New Orleans. And we'll show some pics on the drive. It's the oldest cemetery in the city, and you'll still find to this day offerings and flowers in her name.
So when you say they think her body is buried there, they don't know for sure.
Correct.
So she doesn't actually have a tomb with her name on it. Okay.
They made one, right? And I'll put it on the drive, and I have a beautiful card, artistly made card of the tomb that my bestie gave me, and that's on my altar.
That reminds me of Princess Di, actually.
Yeah, similar.
So, you know the story that she's not buried where she actually...
I didn't know that story, but I was thinking about all the gifts. Well, tell me that.
Oh, so I went to... I can't remember where it was in England, but we went to... I think it was one of her estates. And it was amazing. We went into this room, and it was this huge room, and it had all the flowers people had brought from when she passed away. Filled this entire huge room. It was probably like... I mean, this is my middle school memory or high school memory, so it's been a while. But
so
I remember
you went kind of almost shortly after it happened, or
maybe my memory is not the best
because we were young when she passed.
Yeah, I think she passed in middle school. But so they said that her tomb was in that area, it was in the countryside. But they don't believe the rumor is that she's not actually buried where they say she's buried because they think people will try to dig her up. So they believe there's this moat with like a water, and then there's like an island kind of in the middle of the lake, and they think that she's actually buried there. That's the rumor. Wow. But anyway, I don't really know the facts too well, but there is rumors about she's not buried where they say she actually is buried because they're afraid people would try to dig her up. Sick.
Yeah, I think that was similar with this. Like they would, and people were so desperate to get too close to Di, obviously, and to Marie, Madame Laveau, let me be formal, that they wanted to be charmed by her, get her magic.
Yeah.
To help whatever ailment in their life was at the time.
I definitely need to fact check that. So we will look into that, make a mental note, and we will post on Insta the story about where Princess Di actually is in the rumor.
I never heard that. It makes sense, though. It makes total sense because people are nuts. I mean, in Di's case, it's people just being celebrity star efforts, probably, but...
Did you ever watch the Royal Family, the TV show?
No.
It's so good.
I tried, and I was like,
so you have to give it a chance.
Okay.
It's slow at first, but then when you let the story pick up, it's really good.
Because eventually it leads to her, right?
Yeah. Me and Corey watched it during the pandemic, and I do have to say, at first I was kind of like, eh. But if you give it enough episodes, I really like how they build the story of who the queen is, and you kind of get to know each person in the royal family.
Okay.
Which obviously they don't, and they don't like the show at all. They hate it.
Right, because was not a great person.
No.
She's not, right?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Well, the whole family's just really racist.
Yeah, look at the Archie thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and like Prince fucking, what's that? Charles, thank you. Prince Charles apparently like made a statement recently. I am not racist. This family is not racist.
Yeah, but watch the show. It's good.
Yeah, bullshit. You're not racist. Anywho. Back to immortal, beautiful, powerful women that we can all take a tip from. Marie Laveau's tomb, as I said, they're not really sure where it is exactly. And there's still flowers and adornments there and offerings because people believe in her power till this day. That they can cure or, their ailments, their sicknesses, give them the love they dreamed of or the job or, all those things that people always seek out external prayers for. Mm-hmm. In fact, there's like pound cake still there, and there is a central...
What is pound cake again?
I think it's like...
Is it the one that has the baby in it?
No, that's King's Cake.
Oh, okay.
That is a New Orleans staple, though. But no, it's like a... What is it? It's really good. It's really good. My mom used to make it, actually. It's like a very fluffy, airy cake.
Okay.
I'll show you. I can't even explain it.
I might have had it at some point.
I don't know. Anyway, there's so much other drama that people claim to still see Marie throwing dice down on her own name, and all the other stories of her being sought throughout the city have been told.
Is that what she's doing?
Well, and people ask on Google, these are the questions because they still don't even know. Like, that's again, so much mystery around this woman's real life. What is the story of Marie Laveau? How is Marie Laveau immortal? How did Marie Laveau look? And what is the name of the voodoo queen?
Oh, God bless Google searches. I love sometimes.
Right? People
the
be
dumb
searching.
Even the dumb stuff I search sometimes. I'm like, I can't admit this to anyone. I gotta type this into Google.
So the chapel where the statue stands, this is where they used to hold funerals only, but now because Marie Laveau is such a prominent figure in Louisiana voodoo and their culture, they have like statues and like there's charms all around the city that are homages to her.
Okay, very cool.
Another prominent person or voodoo practitioner of the time in the mid 19th century was, as I mentioned earlier, John Montané or Dr. John. I'm bringing him back up because he is important to at least the fictional story that I'm going to take us through right quick.
Okay.
So again, the book Voodoo Dreams by Jewel Parker Rhodes is a fictional book about Marie's life. And I'm so impressed that she was able to even write a novel on this incredible woman because there's such little factual records.
Do we know when the book was written? Like after she had passed away or?
Oh yes, well after.
Okay.
It was in the 90s, I want to say. I can fact check that, but.
And you own the book, right?
I do own the book.
And you've read it?
I've read it.
Is it long?
It's like maybe a 200-pager.
Is it an easy read or?
Yeah, it's a fictional fun read. Almost could categorize it, I would say, as not necessarily young adult, but there's a thread of like matriarchal grandma, mom, and Marie.
Mm-hmm.
And then her daughter. So I loved it because of that. Because, you know.
What was the title again?
Voodoo Dreams.
Okay, Voodoo Dreams.
Yeah. And in the book, again, tells a story of Marie's life. And she grew up in the bayou. So she didn't grow up in the hot city of NOLA.
So is that on the outskirts?
Mm-hmm. And a very poor country. And again, bayous where they have the swamps and the gators. And you see the people taking the airboats and stuff.
Okay. I can picture it.
And so she grew up there in this novel, and she always describes having dreams. So hence Voodoo Dreams. And in as early as like the age of 8 or 9, she was having these dreams of a man. And the man would come to her continually as she grew up in her dreams until one day in the book, he actually did come to her in the middle of the field that she was, I think, farming or working at. And unfortunately, he assaulted her, as in raped her. And she was very young.
Wow,
like
it's awful.
12 years old. And this.
Do we know if this is true or is this fictional?
We don't know if this is true, but we do know that this Dr. John character was an actual human or an actual person.
And he was the person who was enslaved at one point, and then he had slaves himself later on. Okay.
Yep. And basically.
Is he the one who might have raped her?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and he was in her dreams.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so cut to, she escapes. She goes to, in her young, early teens, goes to the big city to find wealth and a career. And she does so as a hairdresser, as I mentioned. And then meets another man named John. And this man also, I believe, existed. They don't know to what extent, again, in the fictional story. But
so this is a good John?
A good John.
So there's bad John and good John.
Exactly,
okay.
Yes. And this good John becomes her lover and takes her under his wing. And they start building her quote-unquote empire as the voodoo queen.
Okay.
As soon as she gets there and through her beauty shop starts building a reputation as a healer.
Okay. Nice.
And follows that trajectory. But unfortunately, there's like so much abuse and trauma, not only by the men in her life, but by her mom and grandmother were like kind of verbally abusive to her. And then it takes you through the scene of the affair of her indoctrination. Mm-hmm. And again, it was so wild, like where there's the snake involved, and essentially she, in this is part of the voodoo religion and beliefs, where she embodies the snake, she becomes the snake and lives in the spirit of a serpent.
Very Harry Potter of her.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yes.
You know, I am gonna, one day, I mean, Teddy was reading it to me.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, it was so cute.
Which one? The first one?
I think so.
Okay.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But I was really proud of him because there's a lot of big words in there.
Yeah,
for a
he's
7-year-old.
5, right?
7.
Well,
okay. He'll be 7 in, oh my God, 10 days.
That's her nephew.
Happy birthday, Neffy. I love you, teddy bear.
I don't think he listens.
I know, but
hopefully
I love
not.
you anyway.
You're like, my auntie's crazy.
Oh, he already know that. let's be real. He loved me though. Anyway, so back to the book real quick. So it really ends on her indoctrination, but in the meantime, it goes through the years of her traumas of like, you know, how she became powerful and essentially good John unfortunately turns bad John.
Oh, so there's 2 bad Johns now. Plot twist.
Yeah, and he basically tried to take her agency away from her by taking, like, owning, like, think of Free Britney, right? Like, this John tried to take her money, her influence, and tried to control everything that she did with her voodoo business, if you will.
Okay.
I'm going to call it voodoo business. I don't know how else to categorize
yeah, I don't know what
it right
else
now.
to call it either.
And in the meantime, however, she was a celebrity and gained fame for healing people. And people loved her for that. And so henceforth, she passes away and it's left with a cliffhanger if she and John had daughters or not.
Ooh.
That could live, that then her spirit could live through.
Okay.
And so that's really the gist of this amazing woman. But as I said earlier, she wasn't just about this image. She gave back to the Black community through her financial means and enslaved peoples, and it helped to free many enslaved people, which I think is incredibly badass. And she basically, again, like, owned it as a woman. And to me, that's why voodoo is so attractive, as you said. Like, let's get our power. Let's get our agency. We own this shit. We're queens. And we don't need anybody telling us
preach
what to do, how to dress, what to look, how to think, how to act. None of that shit. We are our own women. And hear me roar. That's fucking right. And it was just really empowering, I guess, to me. It was really a wonderful story, and I love this woman. If she was anything like the fictional version, she's just a bad bitch.
Very cool. Awesome. I knew, like, I've heard of Marie Laveau, but I didn't know her story at all. And like the imagery, I was like, oh, I've seen that before, but I said at the top, I didn't know much about voodoo at all before we even did this episode. And then I knew, like, of the name, but I couldn't tell you a single thing about her. So very cool. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. There's just a little bit I have too of, like, just wanted to make it known that, like, in media, as I said earlier in my history, there's so many sensationalistic portrayals of voodoo that they didn't get it right, frankly. You know, they equate Louisiana voodoo with Satanism. And we're actually going to talk about Satanism in an upcoming episode. But it's just really unfortunate that so many things got it wrong. When to me, this religion is about A, familiar ancestry and honoring your ancestors, and B, female empowerment.
Very cool.
So
I can get behind either of those 2 things.
Yeah. Essentially, it's really cool, and do some more research, because I certainly didn't do enough justice, I don't think, on this religion. But it's really fascinating, and it's not dark. It's not the devil's work. It ain't any of that bullshit that people might want to try to tell you or, like, are scared of it for. It's really just, again, like, looking within.
Very cool. I like it.
So that's that.
Awesome job. That was a fun episode.
Thank you.
So let us know what you think, if you like the format, or if we should stick to our old ways. We're just trying new things out. Why not?
Because we can. We own this shit. We do what we want.
I like to think that.
Before we close, may we, my non-believer friend, may we do an offering to Madame Laveau?
I mean, we can.
All right. So we're going to do it anyway.
Since I'm such a believer.
We're going to do it anyway. Here we go.
Reminds me of when I would, like, go to church with people growing up and you have to pretend to pray. So I'll do that with you. I can act.
All right. So as I said, she was raised in the Catholic religion, and she was seen till her death, and this is real life, not fiction, at churches in New Orleans, and practiced, and was like because of her fame from voodoo, was a very popular figure around the city. And therefore, this is a prayer card that is often found in gift shops around New Orleans, etc., to offer the voodoo queen herself a prayer. So please take my hand, friend.
Okay.
Get over it. Take my other one.
Okay.
And I'm offering this up to you, Madame Laveau. Success of our podcast, our health, and our journey together as best friends and business partners to have a wild, beautiful, successful journey. Okay? Here we go.
Okay, I'm ready.
Marie Laveau, benevolent Marie Laveau, who draws her strength from the Loas, which are gods. I trust your protecting love and strength and power, and your kindness, Give me the fortitude to confront misfortunes I meet and the strength to overcome my weaknesses.
Amen.
Amen, baby. Amen. For real. You know what's funny? Do you know the Serenity Prayer by chance?
No.
I'll recite it. It's very quick, but it's one that's used in many places.
Prayers.
I do, girl. That's
Oh,
my
yeah.
Catholic roots, baby.
Yeah.
So the Serenity Prayer goes like this. And it's actually a really good one for anyone, religious or not. Just the sentiment behind it. So it goes like this. God, you want to repeat after me? Or are we not ready for that?
I mean, I can.
Let's just do it for
Okay.
funsies. Okay, God,
God,
grant me the serenity
grant me the serenity
to accept the things I cannot change.
Oh, I know this one.
Yeah,
They say it in the
everybody knows.
movies all the time.
It's everybody
Yeah.
knows it, but it's called the Serenity Prayer.
Okay.
So to accept the things I cannot change,
To accept the things I cannot change.
the courage to accept the things I can
To
change,
accept the things I can.
and the wisdom to know the difference.
Wisdom to know the difference.
Yep.
It reminds me of when I was getting married and you have to repeat what the officiant says.
I was like, wait, hold up. Did you do a secret priest ceremony?
No. No, but remember our officiant said something and I totally butchered it. And I was like, whatever he said.
Oh my God, you did.
Yeah, I was like, I can't say whatever he said.
Which,
yeah.
by the way, speaking of religion, whack-ass religions, he got that license through the Universal Life Church, and I swear to God, it was like Scientology. But anyway,
Hey, it's like,
hey, it works. You're
like-
legally married, I hope.
it was like $30, right?
Yeah,
So
something
it
like that.
works.
But anyway, it was just a funny side note. And with that, thank you everyone for listening. It was a really fun one. And we're badass bitches over here. Okay, so we're just trying to take that energy from
I'm channeling
these
it.
women.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and we are going to be doing Satan, the devil,
Ooh.
next week. So tune in.
I'm throwing up my pitchforks, 2 hands, because I'm a sun devil, baby. Whoop whoop.
So peace, Bewitches!
Peace.
Thanks for listening. Please rate and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to your podcast. Check us out on Instagram or bewitchbanter.com. Suggestions for the show? Email us at bewitchbanter@gmail.com. Credits, music, Phantom Fun by Jonathan Boyle from premiumbeat.com. Podcast edited and produced by Krista Hins and Amy Holt.